This is monthly business meeting for World University and the regular World University School Business Meeting community, Larry Wieland, on the phone shortly, and am welcoming other participants to join this meeting as well. I'm going to post the agenda in the text chat and also potentially to Twitter later on, and below this video, which should be recorded, and we'll seek to let me see first if Larry Wieland is going to be here also. I'll try a phone call one more time. And then we'll get to the meeting shortly. With or without him. Hello, Larry. This is Scott. If you are available in a while, would you call me back, please? Thank you. Talk to you later. Bye for now. So what I hope to talk about today with people who read the monthly business meeting or sort of agenda or listen to this video is about a number of things. One, World University and School successfully filed both statements of information for the WUaS corporation, which is newly forked from World University and School. And our CEO and board for that are new, and we're in communication somewhat, but seeking to build the board anew for both the WUaS corporation as well as its officers. And similarly, World University and School, as separate from the WUaS corporation, filed its SI 100 successfully recently, and is also seeking to grow its board and officers. So the World University and School itself, the first wing, is seeking to create major online CC4 MIT OpenCourseWare centric universities, high schools, The second wing, the WUaS Corporation, is an educational services company. And it's to provide books and computers and resources for students, matriculated students, and others in a bookstore, a computer store, robotics store even, for learning robotics. And it seeks also to serve markets in all 200 countries' official and main languages, but in all 7,097 living languages as well, as wiki markets, as academic markets. So the A, World University and School, the first wing, is for, in addition to the planned universities in 200 countries, for wiki schools for open teaching and learning in all 7,100 languages, living languages. And the WUaS Corp is planning academic markets in all of those. So that's a great development, and we're seeking now to build from these two legal entities in going forward. So as another item, there are two National Science Foundation grants on the horizon that World University and School will seek to write and apply for. And the first has to do with accelerating discovery and educating the future STEM workforce. And World University and School would like to do this through, in this grant, developing our first undergraduate class of approximately 100 students. Ah, Larry's calling. Oh no. No one else has yet joined the Hangout. Do you want to call back when it's less hectic? Okay. All right, that sounds good, in an hour or so. Sounds good. All right, talk to you in an hour or so. Sounds good. Thanks. Okay, bye. Chief Financial Time being in this newly emerging WUaS Corp legal entity, he's the acting chair and the acting CFO until we find people to fill those roles and continue this forking process. So again, the National Science Foundation grant on the horizon for World University and School is one called Accelerating Discovery, Educating the Future STEM Workforce. And it's something that World University and School will apply to for both our first year of reaching out, finding, hiring staff and instructors, as well as beginning the accreditation process. And the second grant that we're looking at could be applied in a similar way, and we'll seek to write a grant for this in all likelihood at the high school level. So those and the other item on the agenda has to do with potentially developing language communities in all 200 languages. And this, in all likelihood, would best take shape in the Google ecosystem of Google Plus with Google Hangouts. And potentially it would emerge out of already existing Hangouts, at least planning-wise. So there are regular German and English Hangouts weekly, which are meeting in group video. And we may be able to explore how we could develop further best practices from this. And similarly, there's a Romanian language hangout on Saturdays regularly. And it would be very interesting to explore how to develop further from this. And this could involve moderators. For example, there was a woman from Texas who started language practice hangouts, which grew into a great number of languages in the Google Plus architecture. And then she withdrew a year ago or so from these language practice hangouts, but they're continuing on. So they're a resource to grow from as well, with a moderator and now maybe the absence of a moderator. And teachers will also help facilitate the growth of language hangouts in all 200 countries' official languages. And the teacher of the German and English hangouts is Peter Bote, and we can develop best practices potentially from emerging from his hangouts, emerging from these language practice hangouts, and emerging from the Romanian language hangout. So for these groups, from these groups, translators also and coders for a universal translator could emerge too. And also, World University and School would eventually seek to hire from such groups, say instructors and moderators potentially, which Wikipedia has done too, from their volunteer communities. And on their Wikipedia platform. And the information technology architecture of Google Plus is still fairly wiki fast. And it's still fairly open in all its language communities. So that kind of wiki openness could be something great for World University and School to cultivate. And also out of these language communities, the WUaS Corporation and the WUaS Press may be able to find translators and people who could help develop an academic press with machine translation, coders, programmers in all 200 countries' languages and all 7,097 living languages. So these language communities could be something that would be helpful for both World University and School on the one hand, and the WUaS Corporation on the other. If it's possible, World University and School would like to create a kind of Stanford University culture, which I'll characterize as excellent and still a little bit kind of hippie California open, even in the 2010s, and laid back too. And this could have a much merit in such language communities, especially. The other thing that these language hangouts, as they develop and grow, could be engaged for, and it's great because in Google Plus, you can send messages to the people who are already in these groups in a kind of way similar to email. So there's a sort of way to reach out to these communities and grow them through this communication process. And one last thing that World University and School would seek to do in such varied language hangouts that we might begin to cultivate and grow is reach out to students, to undergraduate students in all 200 countries' main and official languages. So there could be a hangout happening in the Swahili language, an hour a week, where everyone spoke Swahili in a Google group video hangout. And from this, people would be learning the Swahili language in conversation by speaking. But people interested in Swahili courses, for example, and even degrees in Swahili might hear of this or might be reached from this hangout in a way that these hangouts could then divide. There could be a Swahili language hangout and then a Swahili hangout for 18-year-olds interested in degrees in the Swahili language that would be MIT OpenCourseWare centric, such as engineering and robotics. And this would all be from individuals from people's homes. So the campus would be the hangout, and the hangout would also be the mode for outreach, initial outreach, building further community, building further parts of these language communities. And on the WUaS Corporation side, such language hangouts could also become focused with topics, for example. For example, Ajit Mishra in East India, whose first language is Hindi, could hold a language hangout on logistics, which is a focus of his. And from this could grow a group of interested practitioners of logistics that could help develop the academic press in Hindi and other languages in India. I think there are 22 or so official languages in India, as well as a bookstore, computer store, robotics store in India, online first, but then on the ground as well, probably in the big cities of each of these 22 official languages. So a third kind of language community hangout could emerge around pragmatic and business topics at World University and School that could then lead to developing the WUaS Corporation. So those are some ways that I'm hopeful World University and School will begin to develop language community hangouts and perhaps collaborate further with Julian Dumitrasco, who's the named CEO of the WUaS Corporation in Romania, and Ajit Mishra, who's already developing logistics meetups online of one kind or another on a number of weekday mornings at 7 a.m. So these are all interesting possibilities with regard to developing language hangouts, community hangouts. Just to close this item, the aspect of community that I would love to facilitate at World University and School that kind of relates to the Stanford culture I mentioned of excellence, California open and laid back, has to do with an idea of community as connectedness or connection, and communitas, a kind of sense of community, of coming together, of almost heightened transcendence in relating to one another. And it would be interesting to also cultivate this in the language communities that might form in. It was interesting to hear last Saturday in the Romanian hangout, it was no, Monday in a World University and School hangout with Nikolai from Romania, that when Peter Bote from German Hangouts joined this World University and School hangout with Nikolai Gaspar in this hangout, that Peter's name appeared in the Google Hangout in the box at the bottom that was Peter's video. Peter's name appeared as Petru. So there's, I guess, a Romanianization of people's names for Nikolai that can occur in Google Hangouts, probably thanks to integration with Google Neural Machine Translation and the Google ecosystem. So these are all advantages of Hangouts in building these language communities. So how to build connectedness and communitas in wonderful and far-reaching ways in such language communities is a fascinating question, and perhaps the moderators will help generate this, but perhaps there'll be other approaches that we can find, whether through video or similar, that will help to further generate wonderful community. So the next item on the agenda I'd like to talk about, item G, is information technology. And this past week, World University and Schools sent an email to Wikidata, Wikimedia, and other key people, coders in those communities, including Catherine Maher and Lydia Pincher, and some core developers of Wikidata, and potential managers as well, asking further about developing the World University and School subject template in Wikidata from our new, relatively new WUaS Miraheza MediaWiki front-end technology. And one of the things that will influence this development of our subject template is whether we can create end users for transcripts, for registering, for matriculating students. And in thinking about 200 countries' official languages and main languages, Nigeria has 7 or 8 main languages with large populations. India has 22 official languages and many, many, many more other languages. It might make sense to grow such end users and universitians and matriculated registered students out of these language communities and out of Google Plus itself in all 7,097 living languages. So developing the subject template in Wikidata is, with Miraheza MediaWiki for World University and Schools, the front end. To try to make that clear, the Miraheza MediaWiki for World University and Schools, the front end, Wikidata, structured knowledge database, would be the back end, and the subject template would be the intermediary, where anyone could create a new subject, wiki subject for open teaching and learning, out of this subject template, for example. Wikipedia has 301 languages, of which 291 are active Wikipedias, which means they have some kind of community, people who are editing these Wikipedias. But the platform of Wikipedia, Wikidata, Wikimedia is not necessarily conducive to matriculated students, registering students. And it's also not easily scalable to 7,097 living languages for matriculated students, registered students, volunteer universitians, whereas Google Plus Hangouts might well be, along with Google Neural Machine Translation. So it might make sense to explore developing the subject template between WUaS, Mirrorhaze, and MediaWiki as a front end, and Wikidata as a back-end structured knowledge database with Google Plus and for all 7,097 living languages. And in these regards, World University and School has also been exploring the potential of online medical degrees, online law degrees, online PhD degrees. And part of the degree process here, part of developing new OpenCourseWare for law and medicine, but also the MIT OpenCourseWare's 2,400 courses in English and 4 other languages, which may have 150 to 250 courses, including traditional Chinese and Korean and Spanish and Turkish, with the Persian language and Portuguese archived, but probably developable in new ways, is the potential use of even blockchain technologies for medical degree data. We would like to have online teaching hospitals for online clinical care, for defining online medical degrees and online medicine. And there again, in thinking in terms of 7,097 living languages, the Google ecosystem and Google Plus, and even Google Street View with Time Slider, Google Maps, Google Earth, Google Brain, Google Neural Machine Translation, Google TensorFlow, may make the most sense for developing the blockchain for universitians, for matriculated students, for registered students, and for volunteers, universitians who edit the wiki because they're interested in doing so, just like in Wikipedia, but in all 7,097 living languages. And in thinking about such a large number of languages and a large number of end users, and with these new technologies such as the blockchain ledger, and also developing cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, which is both a brand as well as an information technology. I read recently, I think on an MIT Twitter post, that there are 1,600 cryptocurrencies by one count. But apparently anyone can create their own cryptocurrency too. So this number may grow exponentially. There's an opportunity World University and School is considering in planning for end users, in developing this subject template for universitians, for matriculated students, for volunteers in 7,100 living languages, to plan for all 7.5 billion people on the planet, and perhaps for 11 billion people on the planet by 2050 or 2100 or so. And in that planning process, anticipate a cryptocurrency with blockchain ledger that would inform the online teaching hospitals for online clinical care, and which would also be something, this cryptocurrency with blockchain ledger for all 7.5 billion people, that World University and School could help develop out of our emerging law schools online in all 200 countries, official and planned and main languages. Cryptocurrency with blockchain, in order for it to develop with some sort of currency, or as some sort of currency, with market cachet, I'll say, and with far less risk than these 1,600 current cryptocurrencies are engaging in presently, might well emerge best from all 200 countries' central banks or federal banks, such that the central banks could plan for security, plan for how such a cryptocurrency with blockchain ledger might emerge. So in planning for matriculating students, 7,097 language communities with even universitians, volunteers, teachers, and learners, World University and School is exploring the idea of developing a universal basic income as a way to help an emergent cryptocurrency gain cachet, find its way into markets, but also potentially to allay the significant downsides of automation and robotics in the years ahead. If all 7.5 billion people could, in the planning process, receive a basic income, a guaranteed basic income, perhaps with a cryptocurrency with blockchain ledger, then this cryptocurrency would gain market cachet, people would be helped, and nation states, which are already paying to print their own currencies and most of which have social welfare systems, could benefit from these cryptocurrencies, a smart cryptocurrency that could generate value in and of itself for the particular nation state. And this could all happen within the Google platform as well, with World University and Schools law schools and students potentially helping to code for this, and World University and Schools medical schools, online medical schools with online teaching hospitals for online clinical care could engage in this blockchain ledger for all kinds of things, from pharmaceuticals to basic research of the human genome and at the atomic level as well. So this is the idea in planning for this subject template with registered matriculated students and universitians in language communities of all 7,097 living languages. And it would emerge out of the subject template bridging Wikidata, MediaWiki at World University and School, the back end and the front end. And it would also inform a kind of approach to relating with Google itself. So in Google Plus, in Google Hangouts, but particularly Google Plus as end users. So could all 7.5 billion people eventually have a Google Plus account that would relate to an email, a Gmail, and a phone number? And then could such online education, but also even a cryptocurrency, be distributed through smartphones from this Google Plus centric infrastructure? And for those people in Africa or China or Indonesia or India or the United States or Australia who didn't have smartphones, could they get a kind of bank card or a gift card that they could even go into a cafe and add more value and spend from? So this is all item G in information technology on the agenda for World University and Schools monthly business meeting today. And I want to bring to a close the World University and School business meeting. I think Larry will call back in about a half hour to me, and we'll talk a little bit further carrying on this. But in these remaining 10 minutes or so, I want to switch hats to the WUaS Corporation, and where Julian Dumitrascu is the named CEO. For the time being, until we can grow our board and officers more fully, I'm the acting secretary, clerk in a Quaker-friendly sense, president of the WS Corporation. And I just want to touch on a few items that are here on the agenda that you'll find below this YouTube video if you watch it later. The address for which, the URL you'll find below this YouTube video. And that is that we may be seeking a new account to diversify and mitigate risk for our finances. One account has so few resources that we can't pay back a very small expense. So we need to work on that. I'll talk with Larry in a little bit. The bookstore and academic press, we're going up to Reed College in the second weekend of June in Portland, Oregon, where both books from this academic press planned for machine translation will find a home in the Reed Marketplace for 3 hours on a Saturday. And we're continuing to seek to grow our board for the WUaS Corporation and further officers. And lastly, touching on the last item G from the World University and School Wing, it might make most sense to explore this cryptocurrency with blockchain ledger in the context of the WUaS Corporation. And we'll have to, Larry and I will talk more further about that. But that's, and we have noted and minuted a little bit some of our actions and business meeting items with regard to cryptocurrency being part of the WUaS Corporation side of things. But we will address that later on. So this monthly business meeting, as you'll see in this agenda, there's a link from Julian Dumitrasco, for example, extends before and after a monthly business meeting as a kind of clerk in a Quaker meeting. I seek to bring together various things and ideas which people share, and from that develop minutes which express a kind of sense of this meeting. And this is a potentially harmonizing approach to business meetings. But as we grow our boards on both wings, while we would like to engage this kind of decision-making process, we would certainly cultivate the space for differences and disagreements and a variety of forms of reasoning. So in conversation as part of meetings that lead to actions and decisions that then become operationalized. So to close, I just want to add that if it's possible, World University and School would like to explore collaboration, partnering with both a Google-centric platform with Alphabet, but also explore somehow collaborating with Stanford University and eventually seeking to hire many of its graduate students, postdocs, who are becoming faculty in all 200 countries' official languages, and thus engage a kind of Stanford excellence, as well as develop, cultivate, grow a kind of Stanford ethos in these language communities, in conceptually Google Group Video Hangouts, and potentially even eventually into, from Google Group Video Hangouts of 10 people with 3 modalities of communication: voice, gesture, and group text, probably some others as well, into even a realistic virtual Earth. So the 10 people in group video would become avatar bots in a realistic virtual Earth. And for science, technology, engineering, mathematics, STEM modeling, STEM conversation, and also as classrooms. So this realistic virtual Earth would potentially receive Google Group Video Hangout avatars, and from this, a Stanford ethos that might be in language communities and Hangouts might find its way into a developing realistic virtual Earth. Think Google Street View maps Earth, brain, but also at the cellular and atomic levels, and for even actual virtual correspondence. So build Lego in the physical world, such as this helicopter, rescue helicopter